All right, I'm back with a brand new review. Today I'm going to be reviewing the final episode of Season 1 of The Last of Us. And I have a very big announcement to make about Season 2 and what is planned. All right, there's a lot to talk about in this season finale. I'm going to talk about what worked and what didn't work. And overall, I found this episode to be very underwhelming compared to the rest of the season. Now, if you haven't already, please like the video. YouTube loves that. It helps the algorithm out a lot. Please subscribe. Hit that notification bell, and you will be notified as I have new reviews and other stuff go up. On my channel, I cover everything from DC-related movies and shows and comic books to Indiana Jones, Star Wars, streaming, and all kinds of pop culture and media in general, and you don't want to miss a video. All right, so let's talk about The Last of Us season finale. Now, there was some comments made by Bella, who plays Ellie in the show. She came out and said that this last episode was going to massively divide fans, which was a ploy to get people to watch the show. And I do not appreciate the fact that she made this comment when there was nothing in the episode that was going to divide fans. In fact, it was the most vanilla episode of the entire series. It was paint by numbers. It was almost one-to-one what happened in the game with a few additions and a few changes, but for the most part, it was a straight ending to the game. And in fact, when it just ended, and I didn't care for that. Here's what worked. There were two things I really wanted to see in this. One of the things I got, the other I didn't. In the game, before they get to the hospital, there was this big, it was an underwater in a tunnel. It was like a subway where there was an underwater sequence. It was very intense, very amazing before they get out to see the giraffe that was in the show. And they cut that out entirely. There was none of that underwater stuff. And it would have been very expensive to shoot and very complicated. And that's probably why they left it out. But they did spend a lot of money on this show. And in fact, when we get to the end, I'm going to talk about the viewership and what this means going forward. It's going to tie into this big announcement with Season 2. The other thing I needed to see is I wanted to watch Joel go on an absolute rampage in the hospital like he did in the game. And we got that. Now, in the show, it could have gone on a little longer. And here's what didn't work. I think they got to the hospital a little too quick in this episode. It's like they spent all this time doing the downloadable content, extra episode, the content with the two guys, when they should have been focused more on Joel and Ellie's, relationship. And we get a few touching moments with them in this episode, but it should have been a little more in depth, especially the final scene of the season needed to have more. I wanted to see them get to the village. I wanted to see a little bit more of that integration, but the show just kind of ends. And I did not appreciate that. Now, I know they're doing a Season 2, but if you look at any type of show to end it with the way they did, it wasn't a cliffhanger. It wasn't something interesting. It was like Ellie asked a question and then it was done. It was just over. And I did not appreciate that. So they stuck to the finale pretty well. There was a personal conversation between Ellie and Joel that never happened. It had to do with him committing suicide. But I love the way the show opened. The way the show opened was very interesting, but also unnecessary. We got to see where Ellie came from, and we got to see who her mom was who gave birth to her, and the whole situation on how, they found out that, basically how she is able to resist the cordyceps. There's a reason why. They never revealed this in the game, but they did here in this episode. And I'm not going to give it away for those people who haven't seen it. But the good news is we got the actress who actually played Ellie in the game. She's the one that got to play the mom of Ellie in the show. And I remember her from, years ago in the 80s. She actually was one of the additions to, that 80s show. I'm trying to think of the name of it. I love this show. It had the Seavers, and you guys will remember the show. I hate it when I forget stuff right off the top of my head. But Growing Pains. She was she was someone who was brought in towards the last season, and she was also recently on. And I'm trying to remember her name off the top of my head. I don't have it up right now, and I'm not going to pull it up. But she got to play Ellie's mom in the game, which was very touching. So they got some of the voice actors who were a big part of the game to come in and be in the show, which I love that aspect of it. It was a very emotional opening, but I don't think they needed to reveal why Ellie was immune. It didn't need to be something that they actually answered. It was unfortunate. Well, I wouldn't say unfortunate, but it was unneeded. I like there to be some mystery in there. So let's talk about where this is headed. The writers at the beginning of the season said they were never going to go beyond the story. So we only have the second game to go off of. And I will tell you right now, I absolutely hated the story to the second game. Hated the story. Hated it with a passion. It ends up being nothing other than a revenge fest. And there are some lines that are blurred, and I didn't like the way the story was told. So I did not enjoy the story aspect of the second game, but I will tell you the second game had more memorable stages, and they are promising that there's going to be more creatures in the second season. But they said it's going to go beyond a second season, that this next part of the story is going to take 2 seasons to tell. And the reason they're going to do that is because of the viewership of this first season. It surpassed the viewership on the new Game of Thrones show that came out, which I haven't watched. But it had a higher viewership than that show did. And this was done by the creators who did Chernobyl, and they spent quite a bit of money on this, and it was well done. But I think they need to take a little more care with the storytelling with the main characters to really get that emotional impact. Because where that emotional impact was supposed to be, they were more worried about social politics and those emotional connections than they were the real connections between Ellie and Joel. And the story would have been better serviced had they focused on that, especially with the way they rushed the ending. This ending episode should have been 2 episodes, and there should have been more to it. At the end of the day, I give this final episode 3.5 out of 5 stars, whereas the rest of the season, I would give it almost 5 stars. At the end, I'd give the entire season a 4.5-star rating. Not perfect by any means, but it was a phenomenal show and probably one of the best video game adaptations ever. So what did you guys think about this first season? For those who were able to get past the propaganda in the 3rd episode, what did you guys think of the overall season? And are you looking forward to the 2nd season and 3rd season? All right, I do appreciate the support. We will see you on the next video.